looked, and after I talked about the wine walk, I started ranting, and we're going to talk about something way more positive. And then I'll get back to the ranting. Jeremy Angus is my guest joining me. This is Being Live Facebook stream. How you doing?
I'm doing great today. How about yourself?
Other than not knowing what's going on, you were involved with Class Academy. What is Class Academy? I know what it is because I drive by it. Or no, I don't. I know where it is because I drive by it. Explain what it is.
Absolutely, and you're not alone. Most people just know where we're at, is an old Gabriel's or an old Zares down in Baden, let alone a school for that.
Right across the parking lot from the McDonald's that everybody flipped out about. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, Class Academy, we're actually we're a private alternative ed school for students in grades 4 through 12, and we service about 23 school districts around the area for regular education students and special education students. And the type of kids we get, they're your kids who, quite frankly, just aren't doing so hot inside of their public school classrooms. Maybe they're having a hard time focusing in class. Maybe they have some behavior issues in their way. Maybe some emotional struggles. Whatever that looks like that's impeding their learning or impeding them being in a large classroom setting, we're kind of that second option that a district says, we're going to invest in that child and send them to Class Academy for maybe a second chance or just to get back on track.
And you've got 23 districts that have made that commitment?
We do. We serve all of Beaver County, and then we serve all the way into Allegheny County as well, up into the North Allegheny region, and then all the way down to the West Allegheny, Carlington region as well.
How long has Class Academy existed?
So we've existed in this capacity since 2013, but we've been at that location since 2005.
Okay. And it was just this thing that was there and not many people knew about. How much busier or how much more notice did you get from people when COVID hit?
It has been, even during COVID, one of the things with our kids is going into the virtual land for our students is nearly impossible. If they're already struggling inside of their classroom environment, often they're coming from home lives that also aren't so fantastic.
Okay. I thought for a second you were talking about availability of technology. That's not it.
It could be an issue, but often when my students are at home, sometimes they're the mom and dad inside of that household before mom and dad actually is. So school is the last thing on their mind. Quite frankly, they often have little brothers and sisters.
That was my next question. Are they helping raising they're raising their siblings?
They are raising their siblings.
How would a student get recommended, or is it something somebody can come off the street and say, this sounds like a good idea? Because it's for otherly abled students as well as just, okay, you don't like where you're at now.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Kids can. A kid could look at the school and say they're interested in joining, or a parent could say, I would like my student to go there. But it all has to go through their school district, first and foremost. So as with anything, who foots the bill for the school? It's the school district.
So they're going to be the decider. What are the criteria for the kids that a school district typically is looking for?
So typically they're going to look for that student who is just struggling. They are a student whose usually their grades aren't up to what they need to be. They're in need of credit recovery. They have a lot of behavior.
Wait, what is credit recovery?
Credit recovery.
That sounds like a really polite way of saying you're taking the class over.
It's exactly what it is.
All right, I was a victim of credit recovery.
Many were. So it's, it's something, sometimes too, a lot of that comes with attendance. Kids maybe aren't in class enough because they can't get to school because of things happening at home, so they fail the course.
Well, how do they get to Class Academy if they're struggling and can't get to their regular school?
So a lot of times it's the bus transports them, just like the home school.
Really?
Yeah, and a lot of times it's not so much the kids don't have access to transportation; it's they don't want to go to their home school.
Okay, so they had a ride; they dreaded it.
They absolutely did, and a lot of times, if you're that kid in the classroom and you're struggling and you're so far behind, or you're always getting yelled at and the teacher's always coming at you, as our kids would say, you don't want to go to that class.
No, you dread it.
You absolutely do.
Well, how are the teachers different at Class Academy? Because I had good and bad teachers every year growing up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For us, it's going to be a small classroom environment is something that stands out a little bit unique for us. Which means there's no more than 10 students in any of your classrooms.
How startling is that for a kid that comes in from a big school where he maybe had 30 or 40 or more kids? I think back to college, that first year you'd walk in and that class had 450 people in it.
Yep.
It's got to be startling, and you look down and go, wow, there's really nowhere to hide in there, is there?
There really, and for a lot of the startling factors for our kids is that you're really not a number. You are a name. Once you hit us, it's a very personalized educational environment for you, which is something that even in a local school district, you don't have the opportunity to do with a classroom of 20 or 30 kids.
No.
So it becomes very personalized. And for our kids, it's not so much that you can't get away with something. It's often they don't know what to do with that positive attention.
The teacher didn't scold me. The teacher smiled at me.
Yeah. And sometimes you see them flip the other way, because they didn't know what to do with it. They almost act out more to try to get you to react in that negative way because, home life isn't positive. Their school district hasn't been positive. So when you're putting it in their face here, it's truly a what do I do with this moment?
I never even thought of it like that.
Yeah.
Jeremy Angus is my guest. The school is Class Academy. Before I ask you more questions, how do people get in touch with you? I'm assuming a website.
Absolutely. So it's going to be through either the preventionnetwork.org, which is one of our parent companies, or it'll be classacademyvarks.org. So we are the Aardvarks. So it is Class Academy Varks.
Are you really?
We are. We're the Aardvarks.
All right. Who was in on the meeting to give yourself that name? Because that stands out, man.
It does stand out. It was a whole group of staff of us, and it was actually one of our staff. He's actually since left us and moved on, but he came up with the idea. We all looked 20 other directions at it, and at the end of the day, hours later, we came right back and settled on the Aardvarks.
I personally, I think you nailed it. You did bring up something. You said the person that came up with the Aardvarks, the Fighting Aardvarks.
Yep. Absolutely.
I'm all about it. The person that came up with it no longer with you.
Yeah.
How is teacher retention going for you? Because we see that's a problem in a lot of places. And it looks like it's a problem that's building too.
It absolutely is. And finding teachers to replace those positions is even more challenging. With it, teachers for us, we do have a lot of long-standing teachers, but there is reality. It's a high-intensity environment. You're on your feet. Our kids come in with a lot of emotions.
Right.
And it's not an environment that is just for everybody, even just in a work-life balance. So with that, burnout is a challenge. So, and for us as our administrative staff to try to keep our staff from getting burned out is also a challenge. I know districts everywhere are facing that.
Right. I hear from teachers in every district, in every scenario, from quote unquote good schools and bad, and it's the same thing.
It really is. And for us, it's about we do a lot of positive programming for our students, whether that's reward-based incentives, whether that's activities or breaks. Our teachers need the same thing. School districts a lot of times focus on that positive environment for your students,
right?
But we forget about our teachers along the way.
Is that part of the selling point when a teacher interviews with you, that you don't at Class Academy? We're aware that it's as stressful for you as it is for some of the kids coming here?
Absolutely. We hope it is one of the incentives for a teacher coming to join us, especially a family environment for us. With no more than really 70 or 80 kids inside of our total enrollment in the building, you get to really know everybody, which is something that, when you're shuffling through a 9-period day at a large high school with 30 students, you're not going to be able to really do that.
No, you're talking about 270 kids.
Absolutely. With our teachers, you truly get to know more than sometimes you want to know, but you know everything about that child.
When you have a kid that's interested, what are some of the things that a parent is looking for? Because the parent's going to have questions too, I would imagine.
Most of the time, if there's one thing a parent's looking for, I think is a break. And it's a chance to breathe as well.
Really?
Yeah. When that's...
So it's like, wait, the discussion about the education doesn't really come into play as much as, okay, if we send him here, maybe a little bit less stress?
Maybe I'll get a positive phone call and not a negative one.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the parent doesn't know what to do with that positive phone call quite often either. That comes as a shock to them. A lot of times I'll pick up the phone out here. What do you do? No, actually just tell me you had a great day today.
Jeremy, when I was a kid, if the teacher called home, it was not going to be good news.
Yeah. And, so they challenge and struggle with that too. We've seen parents, we'll send postcards home, on a monthly basis of kids that are doing awesome. And it's, cool to see a parent at the end of the year or graduation save that postcard that's still in that fridge.
Yeah.
That's the first time they've gotten a positive postcard in a long time about their kid.
And there's something else that I do want to touch on. Special needs kids.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't enough opportunities, aren't as many opportunities. What made Class Academy take on the massive extra responsibility of making available education for special needs?
So for us, with those students, when you look at all of my students, they're all very high functioning. So they often are just on the emotional. So they either have an emotional challenge or a learning challenge. We do have kids who have autism or mild forms of that as well. They're all very high functioning. But when I look at all of my kids with an emotional struggle, who's to say one kid has special needs versus the next? This kid qualified based on a test because of it. This kid didn't. But their needs are still the same to be met.
Okay.
So when we brought them on as kind of an additional licensure as a school to have, one of our biggest reasons for doing so was to allow that opportunity for students, both in our regular program and special ed, to also interact with each other. We're not that different as kids. I'm like you and you're like me. We have a lot more similarities if we just talk to each other. We'd be surprised what we'd find we have in common. And we find that happening a lot between our students who are regular ed and special ed, especially with my kids with autism. It's great to see the massive leaders and leadership that comes out of kids who, maybe your kid with 20 behavior referrals, he's that kid in the school where it has the bad label, but he's the first guy to protect that kid with autism in that school. And that's something that'll melt your heart.
And that's something that will change both those kids' lives.
Absolutely.
Is that a learning curve for the kids? Because if they're coming to Class Academy from quote-unquote regular school districts, that interaction between, I hate the word regular, but traditional students and special needs students, that's not there.
Absolutely. It is different. And the difference is just the environment as a whole. With us being so small, while we are separated grade level wise, you're going to interact with students across grade levels. That you end up finding yourself in more of a mentorship program that your high school students...
You turn into a big brother.
You really do. Absolutely. And that's different for them, but we find they adjust to it pretty quickly and almost find some relief in it as well.
And that might be the first time that they've been able to create a positive environment for anybody, themselves included.
Right, and especially for them to be in maybe that leadership role of creating that. Normally they're on the opposite end. They're getting yelled at. Now this time you're the leader changing somebody else. They may not think it's a skill they have, but they surprise themselves and sometimes us when that skill really comes out.
Jeremy Angus of Class Academy is my guest. Somebody that you were mentoring or tutoring or something, somebody just won an award. And I saw the award, and I don't know who was involved in it. You can tell me in a second. Whoever was involved in that award could work in the industry right now. There are people working in the industry, and you'll explain it, that aren't as good as what I saw with this award. Explain what it was.
They did. So two of our team members, so Andrew Fueler and Jonathan Hughes, two fantastic team members of ours, they work in more of our marketing and some of our other programming, but they took on a program with the students. This was our second year in a row, where NJM Insurance sponsors a statewide PSA for safe driving.
Public service announcement.
Absolutely.
My OCD kicked in. I'm sorry.
I'm with you. My education puts everything in a few letters.
That's it.
We always cram everything in.
Living by acronyms, man.
We do. So they host a statewide contest to go ahead and provide a first, second, and third place winner. And those prizes are $5,000, $10,000, and $15,000.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a sandwich gift card.
Absolutely. And with it, it's for the kids to do a public service announcement for safe driving. And the kids have to produce it all and work with the team to go ahead and learn how to edit it, learn how to produce it, write the scripts for it. It's only 30 seconds. Well,
now, but you will know this better than most. A 30-second public service announcement, commercial, whatever you want to call it, that's not 30 seconds of work.
100% it's not.
No.
They spent hours and days and weeks on making this happen.
Yeah.
Last year, they had submitted a video, and that video did come in third, and they had won a $5,000 prize. But this year, they submitted their video, and out of, we're not sure how many contestants, but I know last year was up to about 70 different entries throughout the state. With it, they won first place at a $15,000 prize for our students. So.
Okay, do the kids get the money and have to declare pro?
They wish they did, but...
I guarantee you they were asking, weren't they?
They'll get a party and some lunch and those kind of things. But, it's something that's really neat with them. And one cool thing is, I will say, NJM Insurance, a place that we've never worked with, did a great job at coming to greet our kids, come and see them, bring them their awards, having them out to lunch later this week. It's just been a really cool experience and more than we expected in terms of the world of contests. It's been fantastic. And, the students that were involved are 100% not the students you would handpick and say, they're going to go make a video. they're maybe a little more socially awkward, or maybe not your shining stars of the school. And they did a great job.
Why did you become an educator?
So I started actually in the marketing world, and then education
No,
grew
that's
into me.
education. You're trying to sell somebody knowledge.
It is. We talk about our students, and where I fell in love with it was that, in the world of customer service, my kids can't necessarily always choose my school. Sometimes that life chooses them.
Right.
But I still need to make you want to be a customer of ours and have a good experience with us. So we've kind of brought that to education, and, being the principal and running the school now for, oh my goodness, 9 years has been something I never planned on doing, but I would never take it back for a second. I love it.
So when you went into it, you're like, okay, I'll do this a couple of years and see what's up, and it dragged you in, didn't it?
The kids steal your heart right away, and they haven't given it back yet, and I hope they don't.
Class Academy, it's in Baden.
Yep, right down in Baden.
Tell people the website and the phone number, definitely.
So it's going to be classacademyvarks.org. So our aardvarks, classacademyvarks.org.
How much is a T-shirt, dude? I gotta have a T-shirt.
You'll have one soon. Don't worry.
I will absolutely pay for a fighting. Is it Fighting Aardvarks?
Fighting aardvarks. Yep, absolutely.
What's the phone number?
It's going to be 724-869-2222.
Jeremy Angus of Class Academy, the Fighting Aardvarks. That's my new team. Oh my gosh, that's brilliant.
They cared for you, and now you're caring for them. Caregiving for a parent experiencing memory loss